Well, good morning, everybody. I thank you for joining us on the Accessible Hunter podcast. I think you're in for a good treat today. I've got a good buddy of mine, Jeremy Chapman, that'll be joining us. But as always, my gracious co-host Greg Trainer is with us. Greg, how are you doing in PA today, buddy?
Man, I'm doing real good. It's going to be a good week. The rain finally quit last night. We were driving back in a really bad thunderstorm, and it was just crazy weather. So I'm looking forward to the weekend.
It seems like it's that way every year. We jump straight into summertime, bypass spring, and then we got storms everywhere. But Jeremy, how are you doing over in the lower part of Greenville, South Carolina?
Hey man, wonderful. I'll say it once again too, better than I deserve, man. But yeah, man, no complaints on this. And I told some of my friends, man, when I start complaining, I think everybody needs to start getting word.
Yeah.
But no, man, life is good, man, and we wouldn't change it, man. We wouldn't shake a stick at it.
It's one of those things I've got to know Jeremy over the years, and we've partnered on several different things. I finally got him cornered into coming on to a podcast with us. And Jeremy's one of those jacks of all trades, man, and he's into everything. He's all around. He's always got that handsome smile, charismatic, and he keeps me afloat. But anyway, Jeremy, if you will, man, tell the people that are listening a little bit about your injury, if you will, and a little bit about who you are.
Man, compared probably to you guys, I might be qualified as a new injured. But no, I was injured back in '02, and I'm embarking on 20 plus, or actually past 20 plus now, and right there on the cusp, or have gone from being as long injured as able-bodied. So I think that's pretty significant. That's one of those defining moments kind of thing for myself is realizing of how much life still goes on after injury. But just like I say, man, I was 22, 23 years old back in '02, and car accident, man, left the house one morning, man, ended up hydroplaning off the road, and woke up in the hospital 3 days later. So that's usually one of those things. So man, it's like people say, man, life kind of catches you off guard, or just kind of thing. But it was one of those events in my life, which I do call a defining moment that changed my life. And I tell people now, of course, that I would not change it for the world, because I believe it's something that did help change my life, man, and help refocus on a lot of things.
Yeah,
But but that's it right there. So basically, I had a car accident, had a T5 T6 injury. So right here, about mid rib cage or above rib cage down, a complete injury, no sensation, no voluntary movement or anything like that, and been kicking it ever since, guys.
that's one of the things that seems to be a revolving theme on here, Jeremy, is the more people we talk to, the more that either see it as a second chance at life. And that I passed mine a few years ago where you've got more time in the chair than you had walking. And it's one thing to go through your anniversary of your second chance at life, right? It's a whole nother one when you get to the point where you're like, wow, I've been rolling longer than I've been walking, and it's a whole different mindset. But so you were 3 days into your paralysis before you realized you were paralyzed.
Hey man, hey, before I was actually even given knowledge of it, in a sense, because of course, all my other injuries from the car accident, man, I was out of, so I was going through and battling, I believe, more from other injuries than the spinal cord injury. But when they came in, and you see that look on the doctor's face, that's I think that's something that I would never forget, kind of thing. But they get attempting to tell you what happened for one, but then what life is about to be about. So that's kind of why I chuckle, and I do apologize for that, guys, because I'm remembering that conversation. I believe you guys probably have had it before. but somewhere in life where someone gets to attempt to tell you what they think your life is about to be about. And I'm chuckling because, of course, I think we're going to get to it. And I'll go ahead and get to it very quick. Is that my life is dependent on the Lord. And anybody else now telling me that's one of the funniest jokes that I've ever encountered. Somebody else attempting to tell me what the Lord has in store for me. So that was my conversation with the doctor kind of there. They were telling me that I was injured, that I wasn't going to walk again, different things like that. And as soon as he turned his back and walked out the door, I said, when do we start therapy, or what do I have to do next to walk up out this hospital? And that was my mindset. So,
Right. You know, that's one of the things too. I think it's one of those, we all go through a grieving or a mourning stage, and all of them are different for
right.
each person. But it seems, you know, the guys that I surround myself with, both of you guys included, of course, in that, it seems like very quickly we've decided to, hey, this is a second chance at life. It's not always groovy. I know Greg said it took him a little bit of time to get back into a position where he wanted to. I'm like you, Jeremy. As soon as the doctor walked in and said, you know, you broke your neck, you'll never walk again, I was like, cool. Okay, how do I go about doing whatever? Because I knew the instant I caused my injury, that life was going to be different. But I think it changed the trajectory of my life for the better.
And a lot of us have different levels of injury, not just the spinal cord injury, but as Jeremy was saying with the accident, you have a lot of other,
Mhm.
concussion injuries, broken bones, things that you have to overcome as well. The first thing out of the gate, and everybody's different. And wherever you start that journey, it's good to have the mental fortitude to say, okay, I accept this. Now what's the next? What's the next step, or what can I do to improve my situation? And I think that's the difference between accepting the injury and moving forward. We're
Yeah,
always looking backwards.
right. So after initial rehab, um, I know how you and I kind of met, but so when you left rehab, what was your next steps on discharge from rehab?
I actually was able to do a little bit of outpatient therapy as well. So what happened was, I believe that the hospital staff and the doctors felt as though that I was strong enough to actually continue from home. So they wanted me to actually get into, that safe environment or that familiar environment,
Right.
and and then find my way back to the hospital and then continue to improve from the outpatient standpoint. And so I actually continued to do outpatient maybe for about 3 more months. So I want to say maybe my whole entire stint of inpatient, outpatient was maybe about 6 to 8 months.
Okay.
And then of course, just like Greg was saying, man, and then it's a lifetime from then on. You continue to find different strengths and find different ways to actually see life or quality of life improve. And then this is one of the other things that I think I knew but didn't know, was you start to find other strengths in your body as well, that your body kind of starts to take over for you. And that was really good for me over the years. Just as I continued to kind of get back into life, I just found different things that I was still able to kind of do and be good at, that just helped me with some of the other things. So I guess that might answer your question right there. Probably about 6 to 8 months though of total inpatient and outpatient therapies, and then going through that mindset, and of course not being a stickler or attacking the therapy programs and stuff like that. But they've kind of had me doing a lot of things that I didn't see fit. I didn't see why I needed to do those things to help better myself. But they ended up helping out in the long run.
Right.
So yeah,
It's one of those things too. We go through thinking, man, what is this exercise or activity, and what's it actually doing for me? But I
right,
think too, that's just life in general. A lot of times we're not equipped for what we're gonna end up facing. That equipping comes later. And I know you're a lot like me and Greg in that it seems like the wheelchair community, uh, all of them jump into higher learning or higher cause or seeking knowledge of some sort, whether it is for the spinal cord realm or just betterment of self. Um, how fast did you get back into what a lot of people don't know either is Jeremy was a phenomenal athlete going to college on scholarship when he got hurt. And so I've known Jeremy over the years and know he's also a phenomenal wheelchair athlete. But how fast after did you decide to get back into that mindset of education?
I guess that's part of it, Mike and Greg, is that I don't think you ever lose the mindset. And that's one thing I'm blessed for. It's like, man, whatever we were doing and who we were prior to, you're still that person. You still have those
100%.
mindsets kind of things. So I think those are some of the things that help you. Like so for example, and it's funny, we might even get to it later on, but I have a niece with me, and I'm always trying to give her nuggets and share with her stuff like that. And we, of course, started with the golden rule, right? So after your injury, you don't forget the golden rule. You're always going to do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. So that right there, relating back to what you were saying as far as the athletic mindset and everything like that, that's why the 3 days afterwards, my mind was, okay, when's practice? Basically, like, what do I have to do to get back? So as you were saying about translating into education, physical activity, just simple exercise. Those were the things that I think I already had built in. So once I was able, I just picked those things up as they came back to me. So as I felt as though that I was strong enough to do a physical activity, then I just did it. As far as school, when it came up, that was an option. So a little bit of my story in that though, Mike, and I think you know of it, you know a lot of it. I actually was in and haven't completed college when I was injured. So I was home in between, had the injury, and it basically split my whole college experience in half. And it was something that I always in my heart wanted to complete and do. And 2020, I actually completed. And this is Greg. We talked about this, having good friends who talk you up. I completed my bachelor's degree and looking forward to completing my master's. And that's where I'm kind of in that program. And Mike, he speaks it always, and I don't think that he realizes it, but he in his mind has that I'm completed my master's degree. And I keep holding on to his I keep holding on to his reins because he's pulling me along to encourage me that it's something that I actually need to have fully completed as he completes his PhD program as well. And that's why I say you gotta be careful who you have around because they're gonna do two things. They're gonna push you down or they're gonna pull you up. So my man Mike Hudson continues to pull me up, and he doesn't let me rest on feeling as though I'm completed with anything. So we're riding his coattails on a lot too, though, man. But since then, Liberty University, I've completed my bachelor's degree and uh, financial planning and business, and it's just something that has stirred my heart from spinal cord injury. And this is another thing. If I can kind of go into this too, Mike. Uh, when I was injured, I was actually working full time and didn't have any health insurance, life insurance, short term, long term disability. That you see what I'm saying? And I was in the mindset of I'm young, you know, I can physically do it and get it done. And
Right.
then I'll work on all of that stuff later on. And I'm telling you, I hit that brick wall, guys, and realized that I was starting from zero again.
Right.
in a lot of things in my life. And those things started to become added on to me. And I'll tell a story in just a second about how I got into the financial service world and insurance and so forth. And we'll go from there. But I'll let you guys go real quick.
That seems to be one of the themes too, Jeremy, is most of the time you see guys in chairs just because we do stupid stuff. Um,
Okay.
and it seems that it's a younger crew. We were all in our 20s, it seems, when we got hurt, our early 20s or whatnot. And I'm like you, I was just blessed enough to have state insurance, being in law enforcement in the military. But all too often we see guys and girls that are stuck behind that eight ball when they don't know what type of insurance to get into. And we're just really getting into the uptick, if you will, of what life is. And if nobody's ever sat us down and said, "Hey, you might want to think disability insurance." I was right before my 23rd birthday. That was not on my radar.
Right.
Um,
I was
nobody expects that,
I
but
was fortunate enough, Mike, or unlucky enough that my injury happened at 31, and I
right,
did have insurance and long term disability insurance. I guess I was
Oh,
just a little reckless later in life as well. I didn't learn it hard enough lesson in the 20s, so my injury happened when I was 31. But I think Jeremy, said it best too, that we're all starting at ground zero with a
right,
spinal cord injury. How we view the world, our finances, everything changes no matter what position you're in.
right.
It starts ground zero the day your spinal cord injury.
yeah, yes, sir. I concur 100% with that, guys. I'm telling you, I would love to, of course, hear you guys' story too, man. But just like you say, with the podcast, be able to be an encouragement to others that, man, is never too young for one to start. And for the younger generations, man, for the newly injured people and the young, injured individuals, is that there's also a way, to not give up hope, not just quit on it, but man, just walk your path, whatever it is, and he'll lead you to the end of it. So that's where I've been able to find encouragement in it, man, is that for all these years, how well life has been because I gave up some of those dependencies that I thought I had and needed in other things that didn't pan out. So,
I know you were chatting just a minute ago about planning and insurance and some other things. So insurance is something that you followed suit with and took on as a vocation.
yes, I definitely did. And part of that story, I'm a full circle guy, meaning that if you track well enough, you'll find your life having a not only a pattern, but a consistent link, if that makes any sense. Oh, I used to go to, school with her, her sister's, little brother, such and such and such. It's just all these things that just kind of play in. So we talked about um the relationships and what we do as younger and stuff like that. So just like I said, I was running track um from 8 years old and on. And it was just something that I had in my life, just kind of as a tool and a mechanism to help push me forward. And of course, because of the longevity in it, got fairly good at it, got fairly good. And through all my years, had multiple coaches, different things like that. And I had one individual that we had always been around each other, and she coached for another school while she was still a track athlete at Clemson University. And part of their program is that they had to come back and coach some high school students. And I happened to be one of those students in the mix and so on and so forth. Years later, this is 10 years post accident, guys. I see her in the mall one day, and I walk in the store, and I kind of see a shadow, and she comes by, and she's like, Jeremy, kind of jumps out. and she, shows her face, and I see her face, and I'm smiling, she's smiling, and we're just so excited to see each other and everything like that. And she's hugging, and we have this wonderful conversation. And she leaves. And I'm like, oh man, inside it was so great to see her, just all the memories, different things like that. 5 minutes later, I see her come back in. And I'm like, what? We didn't get enough? We didn't. And she's smiling though. And she's like, kind of has this perplexed look. She's like, I almost missed it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She says, what are you doing now? And I was like, well, what do you mean? I'm shopping. What do you mean I'm doing? What are you
Right.
doing? So, but she's not like, no, no, no. Just like you said, Mike, that vocation. Like, what are you, what's your day to day, all the stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I got some things going on. Just like you said, Mike, got my hands in a little bit of something just to keep the days going. And she says, hey, I have an opportunity. I'm about to start an insurance company. Right. And it's one of the big ones. I won't have to call her name or anything like that. And she says, I got an opportunity. These are the things that happened and took place. And got a good book of business, and I need some guys. What are you doing now? And I was like, well, she said, have you ever thought about insurance? So this is back to that link. And this is why I connected with it, guys, is because the company she's with, all of my youth track coaches from 8, that's what they did. And I never painted the picture and counted, because they were well, and had the time to come coach us and after school and all that stuff like that. But a lot of them were in insurance and some of the other things, and it gave them the freedom to do and to go. And it was like, okay, all right, well, that's great. That's great. But it helped me just link and connect the dots without even thinking and all that good stuff like that. And then, of course, she connected the other dot of it. And I was like, okay, I'm listening then. Let's sit down, have lunch, and we'll go forward, all this stuff like that. Well, we sit down, have a great lunch, all that. She said, okay, well, of course, in insurance, you have to get licensed by the state of South Carolina, all the stuff like that. Hey, we need you to do this, this, and this, and this, just whatever. Guys, I'm telling you, I was so plugged into it. I went and I got all of my licensing, took my testing in the same week. And Mike, all of that too. You know the details of it. And it was like, come on, that was kind of crazy. Why are you taking all these tests and say? And I was like, I just need to get it done. So I went through, got all my license and got everything done. And we're on the path. And I tell you, it was just so humbling and peaceful to me to get plugged into something to have a purpose, kind of thing. And this is 10 years post-accident, guys.
Right.
So we're gung-ho, and we're taking off. All right. So this is where the story kind of twists for me, Greg. And it lets me know that, for one, of course, God is real, right? I mean, but that is by my saying, not trying to influence anybody else. I'm just telling you my story and how it helped and developed me. So in my searching, I was still there learning, but still having this desire of asking God, kind of, what do you have for me? Am I in the right place? Am I doing the right thing? Kind of, right? And we're working one day, and we're in the office, and this gentleman walks in. He's not dressed real fine or anything like that. Pair of blue jeans, t-shirt, just kind of, and he's kind of giving us the ringer a little bit. And he says, man, I bet you I can tell y'all about tell you more about insurance than you ever had, and just whatever. Well, guys, I had just taken my test. I thought I was a little bit of something, kind of thing. I was like, no, man, I'll take you up on that one, do whatever. But we basically get to talking, and come to find out, the gentleman is who we received the book of business from, because he was a bigwig now and got promoted. So he had come in to kind of basically check on his handiwork from all the years, right? And he's giving us the ringer. So him and our conversation, it was good, but you guys, I don't know if you can tell from me, man. I love to hook with people, Greg. I love to connect and make that solid, and oh man, it's great. And we just didn't have it, man. It just didn't fit. And I was like, man, did I do something or say something wrong to him or just whatever? Guys, by that evening, I had gotten an instant message across the company's, communication channels. And this guy reaches out to me. He says, "Hey, Jeremy, good to meet you, but can you give me a call at your convenience?" Guys, I don't know if you all can hear that, man, but in that message, man, I thought I was done for. I did not know
Right.
what I said. I was fearing. Guys, I tell you, I waited to the last 10 minutes of our day to call him and reach back out to him. So I reached back out to him, guys, and I'm asking him some questions, different things like that, and he's asking me some as well. And guys, I hear hesitation in his voice, and he's kind of feels it coming off almost as nervous as I am. And I'm like, "Hey, Mr. Such and Such," I call his name. I'm like, let me hold on, let me kind of bring some peace to this or whatnot. What you need? You asked me to give you a call. What's going on? He says, "Jeremy," he says, all right, cool. Thank you for that. Tell me about your situation." So I don't know if we've experienced, guys, in a lot of things. People ask when they ask about situation, they usually ask about what they're looking at, right?
Right.
So I know he's asking about the chair, different things like that. So we start talking, and I start telling him. It's like, well, some of the same things I told you. I was involved in a car accident, going to pick my girlfriend up, and didn't make it, kind of thing. Woke up in the hospital and stuff like that. And he's, keeps asking questions. Guys, as he gets into it feels as though that he has more answers than I do. So he's like, "Well, what kind of car was it?" He's like, "Well, was it green? Was it an SUV? Was it He's answering my questions, guys, or answering his own questions. Guys, long story short, it comes to find out the gentleman was the owner of the insurance company down the street from my accident. He was the guy that found me on the side of the road and called the first responders to come get me on his way to his insurance office.
Wow.
Have you
Wow,
And that,
Jeremy.
man,
have you
and that,
guys noticed that, Chapman? Have you noticed that? Not to cut you off, brother, but it
yeah,
seems like man, you hate to keep going back into theology and all that, but man, it seems like the world we live in is a very tight-knit world.
right,
And man, it's these guys and girls that have been in those positions long before our injuries, and all these things just keep seeming to come to fruition. And I know you and I have had these long discussions where we talk about God winks and seeing, ways that we've been involved in all this stuff together. But man, that
right,
still gives me chills to think, the guy that now you're in this business is the same guy that found you, and theoretically probably saved your life and got you back on track again.
what you
Um,
talking about?
and here you are, man. And you can't alter these stories.
Right.
Um, man, these things are scripted so finite that it's mind blowing when you really break it down. But man, I've heard that story before, but I completely forgot
Yeah,
about that guy being the gentleman that you were talking about, man.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And I'm telling, and God, just like you said, man, you talk. I said earlier, better than I deserve, all that good stuff like that. And hey, man, you couldn't write it better in a book, Mike. And that's one thing that I really appreciate, man, about this life and about plugging in with others. And man, Greg, we'll still look forward to hearing your story and, all of ours, but just realizing that this whole entire thing, man, is connected. And as we are connected, kind of thing. Uh, Mike, Greg, we actually had something going on this end, and I didn't realize it. And Mike was basically kind of making an introduction for Roar and for myself and some of the other people. And he was like, "Yeah, man, we got over 100 years of experience here." And I'm kind of taken aback and not realizing that one can put 1,000 flight, but two can put 10,000, and didn't realize the years of experience that we have had as a community, and the strength that comes with that. And that's just one thing, man, that I just love about being a part of Roar, and just being a part of, for one, the community and the guys that we've been able to surround ourselves around, man, that we're power together, versus being isolated and individual kind of thing, man. So
It really is a blessing, Jeremy, that we get to interact with so many people that are just trying to do their best, their absolute best, of not only dealing with what they have to every day, but to help others around them. And that could be a text message, that could be a phone call. It doesn't have to be something huge or something amazing, but on a daily basis, trying to do things for others. And we witness that every day. It's just an amazing community that we're a part of.
okay, good deal, good deal. What you got one to add with that, Mike? Because I was gonna go the hunter route as well. Because I'm looking at, because I don't know if you can see it on my end or whatnot either. But I'm looking at the Accessible Hunter, the
Right,
podcast now, and
right.
I was about to go slam into it, man. Because I'm telling you, without Mike Hudson, um, some of the things that I've actually done post accident, I don't believe that I would have ever done in this lifetime. And there were things that I wasn't accustomed to, but because of our relationship, I was willing to become a part of. And I've actually become, for example, he's gonna get into it and smile in just a second, but he's got me in the clay shooting, and I'm telling you, man, it's something that lights me up every time he says clay. He doesn't even have to finish the shooting, and he already knows that I'm on board with it, man. And I had never thought about it, never considered it, never anything. But the first time he took me out, man, and I had that shotgun and aiming for those clays, and hadn't turned back since. And every time that we have an opportunity, man, I'm back out there with them, trying to, do what we can to encourage and just give to others too, man. But I'm gonna let you take that one, Mike.
That's one of the things, that's what this whole podcast is about, man. It's about allowing people to see folks in chairs, not for the chair, but just for their genuine service, call to people, their zest for life. Man, you can see it in your smile, man. Greg's laughter, dude, it's there, it's genuine. And every one of these guys and girls have an opportunity, if you want to say it that way, that they could allow this chair life, which the three of us know it's not the chair, it's all the secondary stuff that comes along that
Yes, sir.
will wear you out.
Sure.
But if we focus on that, all we get's negative. And so, it's humbling to have guys like you, Jeremy, guys like Greg every day that allow me to be the best guy I can be. And I wouldn't be able to do half of what I do if it wasn't for gentlemen like yourselves. You guys make it easy, man. I mean, this is just a lot of fun to be able to share in this podcast forum, but also, bringing people out to the Roar property, or, all of us going to ball games, or just whatever it takes, just keep pushing. And man, I appreciate those kudos you gave me, brother, because it's always heartwarming to watch how fast you warm up to some of this stuff. And it's man, Greg, I've got to get you down here just to watch it. And I know you see it all the time, is whenever you see somebody rediscover either a new activity or reconnect with something they thought was lost, whether we're taking somebody bowling or just being out, man. It is, I want to do it all day, every day. And
It, exactly. It's being able to do something that, number one, they may not have thought that they could ever do again,
right,
or that they would try something out of their comfort zone and find joy in it.
right.
Something that they never thought they would be able to see themselves doing, but they absolutely love it. Or they love the camaraderie or the fellowship with the people around them. It's an opportunity to do something that day.
Right.
Hey, you hit that. Hey, Greg, you hit that on the head, Greg. That's why I was gonna go with it. The camaraderie. That's what I was gonna hit me, man. And I'm not sure you guys, relationship with, dad, father, whoever it is, mom, whoever it may be. I remember, man, my first shotgun, shooting. in the woods, whatever. I remember the first, baiting of the hook, and going fishing and all that stuff like that, man. And I'm telling you, those relationships and the camaraderie of more of who you've done it with. And if we can really honestly think, and I don't want to talk too much about the bad side of it, but meaning even when we were doing bad things in this lifetime, you know what I'm saying? Being a
Oh yeah.
knucklehead, you remember who you were doing it with. That's always the
Yep.
ringer right there. It's like, yeah, I remember him. Yep, I remember him too. So yeah, man. And it's just one of those things that it just helps you realize that you're not in this fight alone.
Right.
And when you see somebody else, just like Mike was saying, man, we had some guys out to the property, and I think it was the guy's was that his first sip and puff
Oh yeah.
opportunity?
Yeah.
Mike,
That was the first time he shot since his injury. Yeah.
there you go. And Mike talked about it, and I let him tell the story of it though, man. But when I saw that gentleman, man, suck on that sip and puff and saw that fire going out the end of that barrel, and just saw the look on his face, it was like, that is why Mike does what he does, why I connect with him and will do anything that I can do to help someone else continue to live. So
It's
yeah, go.
always beyond inspiring, isn't it? When you get to see that light come on in somebody's eye and just that quick tinkle, man, that you see the smile from ear to ear or that reconnection. And man, we get to just do it in outdoor settings. And Jeremy, you said a mouthful just a minute ago. We remember those relationships that we started with. Not everybody has a good relationship with fathers and grandfathers and all that, but at the same token, it's all a learning experience. We can all have an older brother or a mentor or somebody that's shown us something positive. And even like you said, when we were doing knucklehead stuff,
Mhm.
um, there's a building opportunity and a growth opportunity even in doing that. We joked around about it, and even in my past, not to pigeonhole on this thing, but I joke around a lot and said I used to be one of the guys that used to go from running from cops to I became a cop and was doing the chasing. So everything could be a building block if we're willing to be that humble and allow it to mold us. And man, I just appreciate everything you do. Greg is the same. Um, what do you have going on these days, Jeremy? I know you got a lot of irons in the fire, man, and sometimes me catching up to you is like trying to nail Jello to the wall. I'm like, man, it's hard to get Chapman on the hook, but what all do you got going on these days? I know how much you help me out with Roar stuff, but just on your everyday.
uh, Man, it's like it was one of those questions, man. How much time do we have, kind of thing? But it a lot of it has to do. Well, I'll go a couple different ways, and the reason why I say it like that is, although I have compartments, and this is, I think, just the way my mind works. But basically, it might be the athleticism, different things like that that come into play, because is the realization that you can't do everything all the time, if that
Right,
makes any sense.
right,
Whether it be family, whether it be, work relationship, whether it be innovation, friendship,
right.
marriage relationship, whatever you kind of got going on. And what I try to become good at is balancing what I have in front of me, because I'm an all in type of guy. But I realized later on in life that my all in affected some of the other things that needed attention. So while I was going all in over here, something else over here was losing the attention. So that's why I had to start compartmentalizing and give my all in while I'm in, and then make sure I'm able to move myself and then go after that. So I mentioned, the part of actually having my niece
Right.
with me and actually living here. So gaining a instant 13-year-old has been a game changer. You know, that's one of those things in life that kind of, you get to doing life so good. And it's kind of like, yeah, I think I got this. I can do it with my eyes closed kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
This one changed my whole conception of doing life with others. And it's been one of the biggest stretching moments of my life, but one of the biggest blessings too. Because guys, I was always I'm single and hadn't been married, don't have any children of my own. So if you can imagine an individual with that experience and potentially those mindsets, I never had a thought of taking care of anybody else.
Right.
It was like, no, I only got to worry about feeding myself today, kind of thing. And having this new experience has helped tweak some things to know that there's a balance. So though I felt as though that I had been given to others the whole time, after I got finished, I could go home, and then take care of myself, do whatever, And I was one of the biggest ones in what they say, the self-care program kind of thing. Hey, I could go do whatever I needed to do for myself, go get a massage, go take a nap, go do anything. So now it's that realization that, oh, now you have to teach and give what you've learned to somebody else. And that right there has just propelled me to make sure that I'm taking the time and the energy to keep consistent with that. And me and her, I'm telling you, we've been going strong for about a year and some change now. But of course, we've known each other longer. But I mean, actually living with me day to day, I'm going somewhere and she's on my back. You know what I'm saying? And it's
Right.
like, hey, I'm going too, right? And just realizing now, it's like, okay, you got a shadow with now. So you got to make sure that that shadow sees exactly what it needs to see to do all of the good things that it can do in life. So
Yes, sir.
that's been So that's been one of my biggest parts. Go ahead, somebody chime in on that one, please.
Oh, I was just saying yes, sir, Jeremy, because when you have a young mind around you 24/7, they see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if you're having a good day, they celebrate that with you. If you're having a bad day, they can absorb that as well. So there's lots of lessons to be learned in the day to day, and they see it all.
Got it.
You
Got
know,
it.
and I think that's one of the best things that we have, guys, is we've been given a second chance, right? And two, I, I didn't have the greatest relationship with my father. I had a great father. I just didn't have a great relationship with him. And it's an opportunity now that we can mentor to those around us and leave the disability community and also those around us that love us that are differently abled um, to be in a better position than we were. And I wasn't in a bad spot. But it's a growing moment. And Jeremy, I've been impressed being able to watch that in you and just to see that passion. Because man, you've always done great instilling knowledge in people and always being humble and just wanting to pour into people. But to see it come from your family more, and to see how much growth you're putting in with your niece and all that, man, it's awesome. I just wanted to tell you I can see a growth in you in that, man, and it's impressive, brother. Keep it up, man.
Well, I definitely appreciate that, and that's going to segue me too, because I don't know where this one's going to go then. Aspect, because I was going to ask both of you all also, because this is a hard place, man. I'm telling you, and this is probably sharing a little bit of our relationship too, Mike. Uh, we get to this place of having for one acknowledge. I think I'm real big on acknowledging what others say. For example, Mike, what you just hit on, and the kind words that you shared about me, man. Man, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate that, man. And just knowing you, I know it's coming from your heart, and it means the world. But then at the same time, guys and Greg, I believe that I know good and well that none of us are looking for that. And Mike has told me before, man, it's so hard sometimes to be looked at and said, man, you're an inspiration. And Mike has told me before, man, I'm just living,
Right.
and as we continue to be seen in different lights, seen as inspirations as well, I believe wholeheartedly we don't want to be someone's, you just see what I'm saying? So if we are having a bad day, or if someone that they don't now take on the responsibility of saying, oh, well, I don't have to have a good day either now since Mike, has done such and such. Because I don't believe that we either don't want to be that either. So I don't want to be your excuse for doing well, but I don't want to be your excuse for doing poor
Right.
either.
Right. Don't want to be anybody's stumbling block or whatever. Yeah, man. It's easy to get into that mindset. One of the most debilitating things is a negative mindset. That's aside from the wheelchair. So,
Okay.
we don't have to be in a chair to be a big old jerk.
And I I think sometimes, Mike, I mean, for myself, and I imagine you, having a second chance at life, we live it a lot more consciously now of how we think about things. And that may be because we're older. You take the mindset of a 20-year-old compared to 40, 50. As we get up there in age, things become a lot more important to us that they were not in our early 20s. Our
100%.
conscious mind kind of says, what do I really want to be spending my time on? What do I want to be centering my energy on today, this week, this month, this year? And I think we're living a lot more consciously than we ever did.
You're speaking
Conscious,
volumes, man.
all right, conscious living. I heard that as a statement, a plugger. Keep that one, Greg. Write that one down. Conscious living. Okay, okay, all right. So when we say and we use that also, hopefully this might kind of segue into another one that you asked me. So now this is changing the gears again. Yeah, you said compartmentalizing. Conscious living, one of my desires and some of the things that we do. So you say, all right, Jeremy, what are you doing? Family, that's one. So I'll put faith first. Faith, which is connected to family. That's one thing that's big for me. I'm always going to make sure that I take that time out and always make sure that I lean and rely on the faith factor of living post injury, realizing that I didn't have to be here, guys. That's one of my biggest things right here, man. I was dead and gone on the side of the road. And there were some people and things in this earth that helped support, but then I believe wholeheartedly that there was one above continuing to have me breathing here because there was a purpose for me too. So that's why, one of my biggest things right there, man, I can't ever lose or go too far away from that in any conversation or anything that I do in this lifetime, man. Because I remember back in 2002 that it could have been all over, guys. So if it was all over then, we wouldn't have any of this. And that right there lets me know that there's a purpose to all of it. So that's one of the biggest parts of it. But Mike, go ahead, man. Run with that, please.
You hit the nail on the head, man. And that's the thing about these podcasts. We try to keep them to about 40, 45 minutes because we don't want to bore people to death. We know they've got a lot going on, but man, these things segue into so many different things when you get these guys on like you, man, that have done so much in life and they see this growth. And, you like you said, you live kind of compartmentalizing, but also conscious living, living intentional. We have to make life intentional. It's easy to get bombarded with so many different entities that are coming in, so much negativity, so many different boxes, if you will, of tasks. I've got to do this, this, and this, that we intentionally have to sometimes unplug for just a little bit of self deprivation, if you will. But sometimes too, we have to consciously jump in and plug in to those people and things around us. And it's not always easy. And so, I know how you've helped me throughout time. There's a lot of activities. I'm going to keep on pulling you too, because I
Please
need,
do. Right. Please
um,
do.
but at the same token, I know Greg's the exact same way. And each and every day, it's one of those things that, these things can segue into a ton of different stuff. But I know you're working on one project right now that's kind of got me interested. and I don't even know if you wanted to share any of that, but just your Segway type chair. I know I hadn't shared this with Greg, but man, it's impressive to watch your mindset to want to give back to others.
Okay. Okay. Whew. All right. So that one, I take a deep breath for that one, Greg. So that was it. But this is, I know, man, we're just being so close. And then remind me too. So make sure I get all my geography as well. You're in Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'm in Pittsburgh,
In
PA.
Pittsburgh. Okay. Okay. All right. All right. And that's good. So, man, that's, oh, that's really good. That's really good knowledge to know. Because what I mean by that, about full circle again, that one of the universities up there, they actually do some things with innovation that we're plugging into from down here too. And I want to actually keep you on board and keep our connection, because there might be some things that we may need to ask from you and so on and so forth. So we talk about relationship for one. And I got a friend of mine. Works for a big manufacturing company, so on and so forth, kind of thing. And uh, we know each other through relationship, and that's how we begin to build. Was just through relationship first. And when you actually start to build relationships, what's important to others starts becoming important to you. And we were at the house one day, and this is years back, man. We're double digit years by now. And he has two children, and he had his daughter with her. And as we know, and just learning and watching children grow and stuff like that, sometimes kids pick up on more than we do at times. And his child, the little girl, was on a, what they call it, a hoverboard.
Yeah.
And he was telling her, I mean, he was giving her instruction and asking her to do this, this, and this. And I mean, he was giving it to her down to a T. Greg, she did not lose stride once. And everything he asked her to do, she did on top of that hoverboard and got it done in an instant. So she completely obeyed, but she did that thing exactly how she felt suit on top of that hoverboard, having as much fun as she could, which we applauded. And that's what we believe children should do, right? And after she finishes, me and him just sitting there looking at each other. And the light bulbs start going off because his life is now tied to mine and mine to his. He asked me, he says, man, Jeremy, he says, man, really, and we're talking about from a physical standpoint. He's like, man, what's some of your greatest attribute right now? He said, man, I know paralysis. I know, from the waist down, you don't have any feeling, don't walk, or can't walk anymore at the time. He said, man, he said, your hands, you still have some dexterity, different things like that. You still use your hands. He's like, what's your attribute? I was like, my hands. And he said, well, man, how much time do you think you spend pushing yourself around? I'm like, oh, I'm using 80, 90% of what I feel as though my best is, kind of thing, pushing myself around or navigating. He was like, man, what if we could actually get this Segway into your wheelchair and we give you your hands back to some capacity, do whatever. Greg, man, them light bulbs are going off, all that good stuff like that, man. And there are some things out there and some companies that have started taking the strides to do that, to give the advantage. This is one of our little monikers of what we always say. This life is too good and there's too much like prosperity, like there's too much knowledge, there's too much technology that we're not giving the advantage back to the disadvantage.
Well said.
Right.
Well said,
So
Jeremy.
it's like, hold on now. Sometime now, guys, I believe that it's an opportunity for us that we can actually start giving the advantage to some individuals that have been disadvantaged, kind of thing. And nobody loses, if that makes any sense. But we've taken a lot of our time, technology, and we'll use it for recreation or for entertainment for others, right? And that's a great thing. But it's like, okay, so what about the kid that can't go out and play soccer because he has a physical disability and he's hurting a little bit? Well, why not put him in a chair that makes him faster than the other people out there running with their legs to give him the advantage? See, because Mike always tells me this, because well, I don't want to use a we, but we have to go back and we cannot, how you say it, Mike? We can't discard our disability.
Right.
So we'll always have to live with it. But go ahead.
No, what I was going to say is that, this again comes full circle, man. Because the college you were referencing is actually one that Greg went to school at. He knows all those people. So this was one of those things that I think the whole gist of why we're here today was to allow you to be introduced to Greg, who knows a lot of these people that are in the know at University of Pitt. And so you're right, man. Technology comes around. We can't discard our disabilities. The chair at the end of the day is always going to be there. But it's not about the chair. Sometimes it's about allowing them to have opportunities that far exceed what life would have been without that technology. But man, I don't know. We could go on forever and a day, but I know you guys are busy. I don't want to take up all your day. I really just wanted to introduce the people to you, to allow them to see everything you got going on in so many other avenues, to introduce you to with Greg. I know you and we're big on databases and big on references. I really just wanted to take the time, man, just to highlight you and not giving up on life. And man, it's we're gonna have you back on this thing. I can promise you that.
Okay. I
There's
got
just
you.
there's a ton of avenues and a lot of um growth that I think that people will understand when they listen to these podcasts. Um, but is there anything in particular that you want us to kind of highlight or touch base that we can come back to in a later podcast, or anybody that you would like to plug um, before we even kind of figure out how to segue to a close? Because I think this is one of those podcasts. Me and Greg have been doing it for a long while, and it's one of the ones that there's no we don't go on a script, and
Okay.
man, they could just they segue into 100 other places, and it's impressive, but at the same token, it's kind of hard to try to figure out how to navigate this life sometime, just knowing there's so many opportunities out there.
Okay. All right. I got you. So you say, so as far as maybe plug it or do whatever, for one, I'm going to plug Accessible Hunter, right? The Accessible Hunter podcast, and I'm gonna plug Roar Outdoors. And guys, if you could somewhere in there, and I don't know, put in websites and do whatever just for the, and when people just get to see, I'm a visual learner, man, and when I just get to see someone doing or experiencing, it just lets me know that it's possible, man. I'm just like you and I both know, man. We jerry rig so much in this life sometimes because it feels as though that life wasn't made for our convenience, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, we'll come back on to tell the lawnmower story and stuff like that kind of thing. But Greg, there's been so much that I how about this? I won't say I didn't know that it was able, because I think in here and in my heart, all's able with God kind of thing. He's gonna provide that opportunity as long as we're willing to take the ride. He's gonna make that thing happen kind of thing. So what I'll say is maybe I just haven't seen it yet. And because I haven't seen it yet, it doesn't feel as much in the grasp. So in us being able to do and share in this life, as soon as somebody sees it, I believe it breaks down that wall it gives them the opportunity to jump in a lot quicker with a lot more confidence. And that's what I appreciate about you guys. You guys aren't telling somebody or sharing about what you think. You're sharing about what you know. And I appreciate that about you guys. And that's what I'm plugging in this, man. The friendship and the experience that you guys have had in this lifetime. And it lets people like me and all of the others who will see this and out there in the world know that it's possible for them too. So
Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on today. I've, haven't met you personally, but man, it was such a good experience talking with you today and sharing your story. And, everybody that's going to be listening to this, I think will really benefit from your character, your words, your heartfelt statements today. And I appreciate you coming on the podcast. And as Mike said, we definitely have to have you back on, man. And man, just thanks for all you do in your community and the people that you change personally.